Hey everyone, it's Ron, the Roosters fan.
Daniel!
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Rugby League Outlaws, proudly brought to you by our great mates at Top Sport. Now, as you will notice, sitting to my left is the resident Sharks fan, having won the Are You Smarter Than the Fins Up podcast quiz just a few weeks ago. The great man Ron, mate, thank you for saving the day. Terry didn't turn up and you were on call.
Yeah, I assume this was part of my prize, getting to host this grand final preview, but here we are.
Well, looking back at it, that's actually really good. Terry, remember that for next year. Mate, but let's get into it. The big talking point this week before we get to the grand final, that pass from Reece Walsh. Before I go into it, because it will be lengthy, what are your thoughts?
It was so forward that, where he threw it on the logo, he threw it in the logo and it ended up 5 metres on the other side of the logo. You can't, I don't know. What do you think?
Physics, mate. What I did is I logged into Twitter, as I often do when something fun happens, and I thought, let's see what the people of Twitter have to think about it. And people were going, you can't rule on forward passes because. If you're telling me, Ron, that camera angles can't come into it, look at that and say, okay, it's a knock on and it's gone so forward, it was caught by an offside player, it's a penalty.
Find me a rugby league fan that would go, look, I know we're not allowed to rule on forward passes. I'm the video ref here. Let's just stop. I know I'm going rogue, but we can't go on after that forward pass. Would any rugby league fan go, oi, he's gone Cowboys here, I'm not allowed to do that?
Absolutely not.
No, everyone would go, look, fair enoff, sanity prevails.
That's
I think that's an example.
But mate, someone made a good point. I can't remember who it was, terribly sorry, so I'm going to steal it as my own. So as I was saying, I said earlier, they can rule on offsides, they can rule on knock-ons, but not forward passes. Is this being ridiculous? Is this being pedantic? Or is it, the odd forward pass will be called forward?
I get it. You want your rules to be predictable. You know the outcomes every time this happens. So rugby league players know they can't rule on forward passes and all that jazz. But that one was just, what's the rule? Deliberate forward pass is a penalty?
Yeah.
That's an example of one. And if they're never going to blow a penalty then, get rid of it.
Now, did you see Reece Walsh throw the pass, turn around to argue to the ref and say, never mind, it's been let go? It was so forward that I don't even care that the second one was forward because, it was less
We're
forward.
still shook and upset about the last one.
Yeah. Now, I had one guy out of about 300 players come in and say, you don't know football. Obviously, it was thrown backwards and it floated forwards. Now, of course, everyone was like, are you kidding me? Delete your account, etc., etc. His profile picture had 0 eyes, and I thought that was ironic because it would take 0 eyes to not see that went forward.
Maybe he's doing it for the engagement, Dan.
Well, I hope so, because it ain't for the
The
rugby
trolling
league
and the
knowledge.
engagement.
That was disgusting, and it largely took away from what otherwise was a brilliant performance.
Look, get rid of that. Broncos are still winning that game by a lot of points, so I don't think it's a massive deal, and I don't think you can refs fault that whole game. Broncos were too good. Game was over after that third try and their little run then. You didn't see the Warriors running them down after that. But yeah, through to the grand final, the Broncos. Been a while.
It has been a while, but it was so forward, Ron.
Yeah, you're right. It is a spoil and a very big game in front of a big crowd. A referee howler like that, and we always do that question before a grand final, will this decide a grand final? I don't think so. We haven't seen a big call like that decide a grand final. That referee probably won't referee the grand final after that one. He can have a seat in the bunker.
He probably will get the bunk up spot because they seem to put the worst performing referee there. But moving on to a team that probably overachieved to a point, yet got spanked this past weekend. Melbourne Storm. We saw them go to, Penrith. It was a Penrith home game, you wouldn't tell by the amount of empty seats. But they were walloped, and I came out after and made what I thought was quite a reasonable take, saying that outside the big three, because obviously Pappenhausen hasn't been there for, a year and a half now, there's not much to like about that Storm side. Am I being a little bit over the top, or are you on board?
I think you're over the top because I don't think they have a big three. I know that we want to do this Melbourne thing, their spine being their big three, but Munster, Hughes and
Harry
Grant, they're not as good as Cronk and Smith and Slater if you're doing that comparison. But I don't like the Storm very much, but they did have their forward pack gutted at the start of the year. So the fact that they've made it this far may be a testament to how well they're coached and their hunger to win. But no, they weren't as good as the Penrith Panthers, and it showed. It showed. It was less about how not great the Storm were and more how good the Panthers were, I think, on Friday night. So
look, that's not an unfair assessment. I just go back to, you're just waiting for Harry Grant to do something. You're waiting for Jerome Hughes. You're waiting for Cam Munster. They don't have that forward. And for all the talk about Big Nas, all I remember he did on the weekend was give away penalties and push people off the ball, then get hooked and come on too late to change the game. You're right that their forwards got gutted. And that's part of my point. Because you look, and don't get me wrong, I thought Liero and Katoa did far better than what expected.
Yeah, their second row was good.
Yeah, they're good, but they're like, compared to Liam Martin and Scott Sorensen, or, your Brisbane, your Kate Wells and your Rickies, they're just not in the top. But the centres, you got Justin Olam, who's horribly out of form, cannot tackle for the life of him, should be playing for the Sharks. You got Remus Smith, who, is barely a first grader. Nick Meaney had a tremendous season, but when the lights were bright, he didn't shine. They snuck through against your Roosters, and let's be fair, that was more North Sydney side than the Roosters with their outs. So I'm not bagging the Storm, because every time I do, they come out and do something crazy. I just think there's too much money into that big four, and when Pappenhausen's unavailable, it's just too lopsided. I don't think they can match it with the big sides, which is ironic considering they finish top four every year. I just think there's an over-reliance, and I think they've been found out.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. I think when the Storm are good, they always have two or three young wingers or a young forward that's coming through and kind of sets their team up. Like we had Nico Hines on a handful of games have off the bench and fullback really, really good when they won in 2020. It didn't seem like they have any of that coming through. So are they lacking a bit of depth? Maybe, but their big problem is their front row. Doesn't seem to bend the line as the commentators like to say as much as they used to, and they don't look as scary as they used to be.
I think that's completely fair.
But I think the Panthers forward pack was all over them. James Fisher-Harris, if you don't like him, you don't like rugby league. That guy's just a front rower's front rower.
Oh, mate, that first stint is probably the best I've seen for a front row in a big game, except the night after. Payne Haas probably did the exact same thing. That battle. We'll save that talk for later for the grand final preview, but oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking off camera, and it actually didn't come from me, which is rare because it's a good idea. We had someone suggest that Reece Walsh, not the biggest big game player, but the most unflappable big game player. Now, before, you say, Cam Munster, blah, 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 and Nathan Cleary. This is a bloke who can go out there and throw a disgusting intercept, and you could see it coming, no, Reece, don't throw it, too bad, touchdown. Ironic, considering when the pass you through later. Now, he did that, and then the next set he did something brilliant. This guy, I made the joke that he's too stupid to realise he made a mistake, and he just go out there, he can do 6 dumb things, and then his 7th thing will win you the game. I don't remember a player like this for a while. Is there anyone you can think of that's got that level of confidence where he's like, yeah, I know I messed up, but I'm going to do it again and I'm going to beat you?
I think it's because he's so fast. He's doing everything at really like split decision passes, running at the line as quickly as he does. It looks like he just throws things without thinking, and that's that intercept pass.
Yep.
But then, a couple of sets later, he's contesting a big bomb on his line, hitting the line, throwing those cutout passes, putting Herbie Farnworth through, making breaks. There's a lot to like about Reece Walsh. And how many games has he played? 60?
Yeah, well, not many.
Not even 40.
It's just because his confidence. You go to big game players like Cooper Cronk. He never made that huge error, right? But then he could be accused of, I haven't seen Cooper Cronk for a while. Whereas Reece Walsh is in every single play.
Yeah. I think that's the other part. When you watched Billy Slater play back in the day, he's always trying to find that offload and cut the line. He's always moving around the ruck. And unless you're enthusiastic and want the ball and a bit of a ball hog, you don't create those decisions, those opportunities for yourself. Do you remember that news article that came out of South? It was like, you should have passed there. It's like, you're never there, Terrell.
Yep.
He's always there, Reece.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Without going off topic, is he, the best fullback in the game right now?
Look, it depends. if he wants to be the best fullback in the game, what he does next Sunday will have a big say in it.
That's a very good point. That's
If you want to be considered in that discussion, there's a Clive Churchill medal up for grabs on Sunday. Put your name up there in lights.
Against a fullback who's coming off a Clive Churchill. Oh, this grand final.
It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be good. But look, two teams that won't be there, as we saw, they exit this past weekend, are the mighty Melbourne Storm and everyone's second favourite team, the Warriors. You made a very good point in the preamble, the pre-discussion before we hit record. Did they just run out of gas?
Felt like it. And it's not just because they're the Warriors or the Storm. I think any of the clubs, like let's say that Roosters and Newcastle went up and tried to beat that Panthers side and then all go to Brisbane and knock over those Brisbane side, probably would have gotten a very similar result, 30 points sort of thing.
They were blowouts in the end.
They were blowouts, but they were more so the game was over at 30 minutes sort of blowouts, which was a little bit disheartening for prelims. But they were the best two teams, and I guess the final series proves that the top two teams made it through. It's what we want, but yeah, it might be a bit of a long season. This one, 27 rounds. They did get 3 buys.
True.
But it might be a bit long, Dan. I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Do we need the last few rounds of the competition when we already knew what the top 8 was? But further to that the top 4 were going to be the 4 that contested the prelim.
That was my point a couple of weeks ago. And Terry said it on here. This obviously you need the top 8 for suspense and dollars. But if you're ever going to justify a top 4 or top 5, this was the season. It goes back to round 1 of the finals. You win and you get the bye. That is so important these days with these long seasons, with this. Now, the AFL have a bye between the final week and the first week of the finals. The counterpoint to that is that, if you finish first and you have the week off and then you win, you have another week off. You only play one game in 3 weeks of footy. And especially if you had the bye then, you could play once in a month. So I get why you wouldn't look at it. But I agree. I think the top 2 teams are so much better than everyone else. Let's be totally honest. And it would have been a bit of an injustice. And although I was vocally supporting the Warriors last night, I wanted Brisbane to win because Penrith would put 150 on this Warriors team.
That's true.
Brisbane are, man for man, the only team that can match them. But they ran out of gas, absolutely. They were less talented. I don't think that's unfair to say. But you play that game 10 times and Brisbane win 9. So I don't think it really matters, but I absolutely agree that week to rest up those little niggles, and we saw Isaac Tungo come back, we got Jerome Luai. They wouldn't have played last week. They were fresh. They came in and belted a team, Is the season too long? No, I would make it 50 weeks because I'm a rugby league fan. I hate the off-season. Is it too long in terms of these results? Absolutely. I don't want to see blowouts come prelim time.
Well, it also puts importance of where you finish on the ladder through the middle of the year. So
that is
another argument is, look, you've got 27 rounds to win the comp.
True.
Put yourself in a position where if you can win week 1, you get a break and you get to play the prelim in your home city. Yep. That's what you're playing for 27 rounds, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe it's just unique to this year. And, as a rugby league fan, they're not 2 of my most favourite teams, but boy, am I interested to see what happens.
It's a very,
because we're going to get a close one, this one, I think.
We'll get a close one, but look, something that I don't think will be particularly close is the Dally M medal count. Wednesday night, evidently, not that anyone knew, and it's only that when I put a tweet out saying, hey, we're doing a quiz on Wednesday night, spoiler alert, stay tuned, everyone's like, oh, that's Dally M night. And I'm like, okay, cool, who cares? Dally M this year, I believe, would be Sean Johnson. So I think he's been the best player across the competition. Last year, I think Nicho Hynes was the most dominant player in the competition and won by a dominant margin. The Dally M, though, I have a problem with how it comes down to it because there's going to be players like Reece Walsh and Payne Haas who won't, because they take points off each other, they won't contest, I don't believe. Now, Reece Walsh can't win it because he's been suspended, but Payne Haas will probably be ripped off because he has a good fullback. Whereas Nicho Hynes last year was pretty much a one-man team. Do you like the Dally M setup? Does it matter? Give me your thoughts.
I don't understand it as much anymore because of these suspension rules. I don't even know what they are. And I guess what I mentioned to you before, like if you're the Dally M recipient of a team that's not contesting the grand final, like how happy are you to win it? Maybe, I don't know, it's a bit of an empty reward, I guess, because your team's not playing the big one, but you've been voted the MVP of the league.
Yeah, it does make sense, doesn't
It's a weird one. And I also noticed that like all the positions of the year, the only people that really care about that is Fox Sports when they have them as a guest on their show.
That's a good point.
Centre of the year 2023 sort of thing. So I don't think, they're worth as much anymore. But, you know, the person that wins it is not going to say,
this is a terrible thing. I'm going to put it on my
whatever.
neck. Do you think Shaw Johnson wins it?
No one comes to mind as someone that stood out in their team as the one that dragged them to victories, so potentially. And I haven't really been following it, so I can't rock up at a couple of days before the final and go, this is the hot tip. But it just seems like Shaun Johnson's winning it, no one else is close.
It does. And I mean, again, like Penrith, Nathan Cleary will never win a Dally M because there's too many good players around him. Right. You could argue that he makes them good, but that doesn't help him poll the points.
Yeah, but if that's right, Dan, how did Cooper Cronk win a Dally M?
Look, that's a very good point.
Cam Smith win one. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they are the best players. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I like your point that grand final week, it's like, cool, let's get up there. We've just been knocked out. We've just come off Mad Monday. Perhaps we're still a little bit, buzzy around the ears, bit fuzzy, bit blurry. And you got to get up there and do a speech on, I was the best player in the competition, but, I'd swap this in a second to be there on Sunday.
That's it. They always ask him questions like, where did the season go wrong? I was like, that's
shut up and look at the
we care about grand finals now. But I'm with you. I probably won't watch it.
No, me neither, because I'll be hosting the quiz. But I dare say
I'll be watching the quiz. That's why I would be watching it.
That's exactly right. And I dare say, Ron, that without hurting anyone's feelings, that the only award anyone really cares about is the Toby R. Ron.
Talk to me, Dan.
Time to talk some black, white and blue. Now, as the official smartest
ever Sharks fan.
I'll never live that down. I'm going to ask you some questions that we get asked a lot. Now, people that are tuning in to watch, he's a Roosters fan, which you put 1 and 2 together is not the Sharks.
Not the Sharks.
So, what we're going to do is we're going to ask him some questions for an outsider's view. Mm-hmm. The first being, what did you make of the Sharks 2023 season?
I think at the start of the year, I'm like, they're going to go better this year. They're going to go one better. But then I think there was a part of the season where I felt the Sharks, oh no, this is going south real quick. And then I think you got a good win against a minnow team, and they might do something. But then headed into the finals game, as a Roosters fan, I was pretty confident we were going to win that even with the team that we had. So, I don't know. I can't see, if you're a Sharks fan, I can't see this year as a successful year for you. So,
pretty much agrees with what we said. And it is telling that you guys went to Shark Park with half your side out and were still confident. With the greatest respect, you shouldn't have been.
No.
But the fact you were says everything. Which brings me to my next question. Nicho Hynes, we love him. He's the wet-haired prince of the Shire. I think he's undisputedly a top 5 player in the NRL. A lot of people don't agree. They say he's not a big game player. I would argue the rest of his supporting cast ain't as good as what else is around him on other teams. What are your thoughts on the great Nicho Hynes?
I take him in my team in a heartbeat. So I've got big raps on him. If you don't like him, I want to know why.
That's a good point.
So, what specifically do you think Nicho Hynes could have done differently to dig the Sharks out of trouble? I mean, there's plenty of other players in their team that maybe didn't play up to scratch. But I thought Nicho was fine.
Right there is exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you. If you are bagging Nicho Hynes for us not playing in the finals, get out and touch grass.
But I think that's a general sentiment of, if you think, and Teddy copped this for Origin this year, if you think one good player can, from the back line, go, give me the ball, let me score 3 tries, all on my lonesome, you're kidding yourself. Like people going, oh, Teddy shouldn't ever play football ever again. When Teddy had a bad State of Origin season, Roosters Facebook groups were like looking for like Reggie's players to play number 1 for East. They're calling for his head. It's that type of mentality. I think you're a little bit cooked if you think that, Nicho Hynes is the reason why the Sharks didn't have a good season.
This is tremendous because we cop things that are the same, so it's not just Sharks fans. Yeah. So which actually makes me feel good. The big one for me, though, our forward pack. There is a line of thinking in the Facebook groups that they're a great pack and we're just under strength. There is a line of thinking that we have a bottom 3 pack in the competition. I'm somewhere in the middle, so I'm going to sit on the fence, but I'm more towards, I don't think we're that great. What are your thoughts on the Sharks forward pack?
Love Toby Rudolph, but I don't know, who's your big forward? Like your big
Who scares you? Who do you look and think, oh, geez, we have to mark?
That's right. Because, I don't know, I like to think of teams as like you've got your defence, which is your forwards, front rows and all that, and then you've got your attack. And every defence should have like a forward pack leader.
Yep.
So for East, we've got Jared Hargraves, James Fisher-Harris for Penrith, Payne Haas for the Broncos. I look at your Sharks team, I don't know who it is. Is it Hamlin Ueli? Is it Toby Rudolph? Like, who is it? Like, you need someone to just stand up and go, I'm going to lead this forward pack. Is it Dal Finucane? I don't know.
Thank you for, thank you. It feels like I've prepped him with the answers here. Shark Park. How much do you love it?
No, I hate that club on one side. The other side's quite nice. Just move the cameras over.
Yeah, you reckon? Just flip it around, put it on the AT?
And then you have your big grandstand as the focal point. I get that you won't have the hard cam showing them run out because they'll be running out on the same side. But that looks ugly on the broadcast where there's all that construction happening and a big building in one corner.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Do you love going there, like even before the building? Because all the Roosters fans were, we have to go to Shark Park. They should move it to what's convenient to me. Where did you sit on that argument?
Yeah, you should have moved it.
Well, that's why you're here.
It's not even close. Just off I get it. I'm a Roosters fan and I want all the games to be played at Allianz. But I want all the games to be played at Allianz. It's incredible to watch rugby league. It's incredibly easy to get to now. Central, get on the tram, drops you 5 minutes out the front and you just walk in. But I also agree that when you finish higher on the ladder, you earn your home finals. You can't argue against that. But also, if you've got 20,000 Sharks fans trying to buy 10,000 tickets and your club can sell 20,000 tickets, you've got to wear that decision as well.
It's pretty well done. Just a couple more quickly. Sifa Talakai, centre or not?
I still can't forget that one game against Manly where he just ate them. I still think about that.
Wait, it keeps me up at night. Yeah. Why doesn't he do it every week?
That's my question. I think he is your centre, but you kind of want him to be a little bit better.
I agree.
Do a Trent Robbo and send him to New South Wales Cup for 3 weeks, see what happens.
Well, we actually said that, and there was a time where he was dropped to the bench, and then he was unwell and didn't play, and then just came back the next week like nothing ever happened. If you're going to do it, do what he did with Sam Walker. Drop him. Make a statement. You're not quite up to it. We believe you can be, but you're not right now. Come back in 3 weeks and show us what you got. I
don't watch a lot of Sharks games. Does he go after the ball, Dan?
Well, he does. His stats are real good, but defensively, and you don't...
Does he pop up on the right side and go, what do you do?
No, he doesn't.
Centre to centre? That sort of stuff.
He doesn't. He's not Joey Manu, but I think he's better than what the Tigers have, which isn't the highest bar. I flip-flop. Every second week I think, geez, he's played well. And then I look and think, God, he's not a centre. I would kill for RLO to come in. But it's good to see that people outside don't know either, because I have no idea whether he's a centre or not. I would have moved him 6 weeks ago. I would have moved him 12 weeks ago. But going into next year, do you play him there?
Well, here's my question. Who's not playing centre because Talakai's there?
RLO.
And would they do a better job?
I believe yes. Ultimately is what you have to ask yourself. When Sifa Talakai comes out and says Kylie Rowe is the best centre at the club, he's the best prospect, okay, well, why are you in his position then? Go to Fitz and say, I want to play in the middle. So I think that's ultimately the answer, but it's funny that outside the club don't know either, because we don't know. Now, the big one that will divide fans for the rest of forever, do we get an easy draw, or do we just beat the bad teams and just can't beat the good teams?
Well, the good teams were really good this year. Like Penrith and Brisbane, I don't know, Brisbane had that little bit where they lost a few through Origin. You expect that from a team that's mostly a Queensland side. But they were really good, this team. Those two, Panthers and Broncos, obviously. And the bad teams were really bad. So they were kind of easy wins there. So did the Sharks get a lot of criticism for a soft draw?
We always do.
Well, who didn't you play twice?
Well, I can't. I think Brisbane. Well, Brisbane and Penrith, because we lost. Brisbane we lost twice. Penrith we lost once. I mean, we played Newcastle twice, and when we got them early, they were terrible. And we flogged them. Then when we got them late, they were great, and they beat us. I think there's a mentality. We're downhill skiers. Let's call a spade a spade. But my argument to the soft draw is, you beat what's in front of you, right? And you beat the bad team, shows you're a good team. The good teams beat you, it shows you're not a great team. So I'm happy to accept that Cronulla are a good team. I think we have to be better than that. you're playing professional rugby league. But this year, they got a soft draw. Parramatta had a hard draw. Okay, but Parramatta weren't as good as Cronulla. So it's really how you play that dictates the draw for mine. But obviously, if you get the Bulldogs twice, you get the Titans twice, and the Dolphins flogged us, which was, that was an easy game.
Yeah, all right, I got you. Like, soft draw, hard draw, I think it's all BS, right? I remember when the Roosters were, 2018, 2019 Roosters, like, oh yeah, the Roosters just play everyone below them on the ladder. Mate, when you come in first, everyone's below you on the ladder. And for the Sharks were up in the top 4 for most of this year. Most of the teams are below them on the ladder. So you can say, soft draw, they're playing teams worse than them. So, I don't know. If the draw actually had some biases towards them, then it wouldn't be allowed.
Yep, I agree.
Right? And it's tough to, at the start of the season, go, this is a balanced draw when, teams like Manly shit the bed and aren't that good this year. Yes. Parramatta were terrible until round 10. So if you played them in the first 8 weeks, it's a different Parramatta than their last year.
Yes.
Melbourne, when they get hit by injuries, Roosters the same. They're not the same team.
Oh.
So there's no way for anyone to just go, this is the perfect draw, unless you play everyone twice, home and away. That's the only way to do it. But then the comp will go for, 52 weeks?
Yeah, it'll go forever. We got the Warriors right, and they were the wooden spoon favourites, and they beat us twice. That to me says, okay, that's an easy draw. But then, as you say, Parramatta, that's a tough draw because they made the grand final. Yeah, but we beat them.
Yeah, and I mean, is your club playing to win games or are they playing to win the comp? Because if you're playing to win the comp, you've got to beat everyone anyway.
That's a very good point.
Right? Maybe if you're playing to win the comp, you want to play Penrith twice.
Oh, yeah,
line up all the good teams twice because if you can't beat them...
What's the point? No,
What's the point of thinking that you're going to beat them in the grand final?
I thought of one more that I'm going to ask you as a Roosters fan. Craig Fitzgibbon.
Give him time.
Give him time? Do you think he's going to be a good coach?
He was the reason why the Roosters defended so well between 2013 and 2019 before he left, right? And you listen to all the commentators. It's your defence that wins premierships, and he was the one behind that Roosters defence. Give him a bit of time. It's his first gig. He's at Cronulla. He's not at the Roosters. He doesn't have everything that the Roosters had. So to expect him to have a Trent Robinson-like ascension is, I think, a little bit tough. But also, you're a first-grade rugby league coach. I think it's fair to have some criticism. And I think he welcomes that criticism and that pressure because that will cause him to want to do the best for his club. So, I don't know. I don't think he's the problem. As a Roosters fan looking in, maybe there's some stuff I don't know about.
Ron.
Yes.
It's time to talk grand final. I'm excited. I have
got
a feeling this could go either way. What are your thoughts?
Well, 1 versus 2. It's one of those classic grand finals, I guess.
Yep.
The last few grand finals haven't been memorable, he says, because I can't remember anything that really happened to them other than Cody Walker's intercept pass. I can't think of anything else that happened in a grand final. So I'm hoping for a big one. Do you think it's going to be a sellout?
I do, because Brisbane fans are going.
You reckon?
Yeah, Penrith rather prove that they can't sell out the stadium. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a big stadium, but when you're giving away free tickets and you can't get 40,000, that's embarrassing.
My question for Panthers fans is, are you guys turning up? If there's ever a time to turn up for a grand final, it's a chance to watch your team win 3 straight. You got to turn up.
Is there complacency there? Like, we'll just go to the grand final. We won't go to the prelim.
I'm only speaking from my personal experience. The 2019 grand final, I was like, I got to go, but I'm not too sensitive about where I sit, whereas usually I want to sit in the Roosters supporter bay. Do Broncos fans go, we're probably going to lose, so maybe we don't invest and go all the way to Sydney to watch it? I don't know.
Potentially. I think it will sell out.
It's a formidable opponent.
It is, but in terms of like a neutral, right?
Yes.
I don't care who wins. I just straight up, I don't feel anything towards either team. And that's not a positive or a negative. I hope every team does bad because it means Cronulla are doing well. I'm not going to lie about that. But you look at Penrith and you think, God, I'd love to see them lose. But then you're like, this is the best team we've ever seen. And to see them accomplish something that shouldn't be possible in this day and age of the salary cap, it's something pretty special.
Yeah.
You do want to see Brisbane win because they were the wooden spooners a couple of years ago, and it's such a turnaround. And your Walshes and your Haasses. Then you look and you think, why do I want Brisbane to win? I hope they lose because they're Brisbane. So I think it's an interesting grand final. It's not one I'm particularly looking forward to, but it's also a game that I look at Walsh versus Edwards. I look at Reynolds versus Cleary. I look at Fisher Harris versus Haas. And your mouth starts watering. Like, this is going to be a ripper. That centre battle is potentially the best in the competition. The wingers. Like, there's no weakness. The benches, there is no weakness in this game. The more I talk about it, the more I think this could be an all-time classic grand final.
Yeah.
But it could go out and Penrith put 40 on them.
Yeah, that's a very real possibility. I'm thinking it's going to be one of those bludger grand finals, like a 10-8 grand final or a 8-6, a 2-pointer, 2 tries in it sort of grand final. But yeah, what do you do on grand final days? Do you have a big party and barbecue or?
I don't. Grand final day to me, I prefer round 6 to grand final weekend because there's more football on. And the Sharks are playing. Come grand final day, there's a good chance Cronulla aren't going to be playing. I used to like watching New South Wales Cup grand final on the day. I don't. New South Wales Cup, Queensland Cup, I don't care. I cared when it was Newtown, but I don't care now. Couldn't even tell you who's in the game. Like, I could, but like, I don't care. I think the women's game is fantastic. Playing that as the main game before the main game is really clever, and that I care about, especially with Cronulla invested. I think this is the most important NRLW grand final, being the biggest competition, and the talent's been really like dispersed. I'm looking forward to the day, but I'm just going to watch it with the kids. I don't care enough to go to the pub. I'm not going as a neutral. I don't sit there and think, oh, geez, I can't wait for this grand final. Then when the teams run out, it's all I'm going to care about. It's like Origin. During the week, who cares, it's Origin. Then as soon as the whistle blows, it's all I care about for the next 80 minutes. This game, I think if you could draw 2 teams side by side and say, pick the grand final, this is as close to as you're going to get. But I think Penrith at their best, I think Brisbane at their best, I think Penrith are up here and Brisbane are about here.
Yeah.
I wanted Melbourne to get in the grand final to play because those 3 players on their day are better than anyone in the competition. It's too far and few between, or few and far between, whatever that correct thing is. But Brisbane, I need Adam Reynolds to be at his best game. I need Reece Walsh to play his best game ever. I'm excited, but I can also see us sitting here next week and say, that was a terrible grand final. And I don't want to think that, but considering what we've seen in the last few weeks, Penrith played the Warriors, who were red hot, smashed them. They played Melbourne, who, can do anything on, smashed them. They play Brisbane, they're going to smash them. And I'm not excited to see them win 3 in a row. It is what it is.
Yeah, what happens to the comp if they do win 3 in a row? What happens next year?
What's stopping a win 4?
That's right.
You think they lost Viliami Kickout and they lost Api Coruscant. And they replaced them with Scott Sorensen and Mitch Kenny. You look at that and you think, geez, they're going to fall. No, they're potentially better this year than they were last year.
Yeah. I think as a neutral fan watching, what's missing for me are those, it's hard for me to get behind one of these clubs. So I've got to kind of appreciate the grand final for what it's worth as a very, big, important game. 2 very proud clubs that don't like the Roosters very much. So again, it's hard for me to get behind. But either the Panthers are going to win 3 in a row or the Broncos are going to win another one. It's like a little bit of the rich getting richer sort of thing, he says, as a Roosters fan. So the irony's not lost on me. So yeah, I think I'm going to support the Broncos, I guess, because my mate Billy's going to be in town and we're going to go to the game. But yeah, if the Panthers win, they've earned it. I like the little things like who was going to win the Clive Churchill medal. I like, is Ivan Cleary going to cement himself down as one of the greatest coaches of all time? Or is, Walter's going to be a premiership winning coach? I love those little things. But will I be happy that one of these clubs are going to be lifting the trophy? No, just because I'm jealous.
Completely fair. Since 2016, I get bitter on grand final day. Yeah. It should be us. Like, it took 50 years or 49 years to get there. Like, don't be like that, Daniel. But right here, right now, prediction, first try scorer, Clive Churchill medal.
Prediction? I like the Panthers. If I was to bet, I would bet on the Panthers in a close one. What else have we got? First try scorer?
First try scorer.
And Brian Toho in that right edge defence is pretty good. So I'll right edge tack. So I'll go Brian Toho, first try scorer.
And Clive Churchill?
They don't prank the Panthers the way they pranked the Roosters by giving it to the halves of a losing team. Yeah. So it's probably going to go to a Panther. I think James Fisher-Harris has had a career year, and that'd be a very deserving cherry on the cake for him. I think he had a great year. I wish he was playing at the Roosters. I wish we signed him instead of Petzolenu.
He's the best prop in the game, and there's some really good props. I agree, Penrith. I'm going to say it's going to be a close one just because I need it to be a close one, so let's put that out there. First try scorer, I'll go Stephen Crichton. He is a big game player, except in Origin. All the Penrith players do. Must be in the DNA. He will score a try and he will celebrate with the Clive Churchill medal, and he will be the one on Monday morning making the joke that, oh, well, I better get the finals out of my system. Let's go on the Bulldogs. You ain't playing there next season.
But I would not be surprised if the Broncos turn up and win that game. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I'm very, very confident the Panthers win, but if the Broncos come out, and the Broncos have a bit of a, we're going to score 30 points if you're going to, like, you could score 28, but we'll score 30 sort of mentality about them. So if the floodgates do open, you know, they've got those flashy players, your Selwyn Cobbos, your Reece Welsh's that could chase down a deficit in a short amount of time.
True. Defence, though? So
it's defence that wins grand finals, Dan.
It is, and that's why I'm going to go with Penrith. I know, 4P, no.
They could.
Hey guys, thanks again for watching this week's episode of Rugby League Outlaws. I feel that went really well, Ron. Thank you so much for coming
Grand final week.
What a week it is. And,
our Christmas.
Yeah, our Christmas. Rugby League Christmas. October 1 this year, I think it is, without checking the calendar. Mate, we've got a big week. You said in the pre-game show, as we like to call it, you said, what gets you excited for the grand final? There's not that big footy show. There's nothing. There's a Dally M that no one cares about.
No one puts streamers on their cars anymore. When I was a kid, they used to have like streamers and balloons on houses.
Yes.
Going crazy. And I don't know if it's because where we live in Sydney, we're not out west enough. But I better see pictures from up, you know, above the border, Broncos houses and cars going
send us some photos. That's a really good thing.
I want that back, you know. I want the big grand final footy
You want to feel excited?
Yeah.
What I'm going to do, Ron, is this Wednesday night, a show that you've been on, the Rugby League Rumble. It's grand final time. Wednesday night, 8 p.m, we're going to go live. This is potentially the biggest show of all time.
It's the other grand final.
This is the grand final. That other dross on Sunday doesn't matter. We got the 4 winners of the previous, all meeting out to see who's the champion of champions. I have something special that no one knows about that I'm going to debut on the night, potentially, if all goes well. I want to see you there. I want to see you in the comments. We're going to be reacting to the Dally M as it happens too. That'll be hard for me to focus on 2 things very difficult, but I'm going to try it. That is your grand final.
And he's going to wear a suit.